You've been lied to. The biggest myth you've been sold is that you need motivation to achieve your goals. You think you're going to wake up one day and suddenly feel like a different person, ready to conquer the world. You're not. You'll keep waiting forever if you depend on that feeling. This is the truth that separates the successful from the failures. The real secret isn't inspiration. It's learning how to force yourself to be disciplined, even when every fiber of your being screams to quit. Welcome to the summary of How to Force Yourself to Be Disciplined, a book that doesn't pull any punches. This isn't about feel-good theories or temporary hacks. It's about the brutal, liberating reality of taking control of yourself. It's about the decision you make every single day, especially when it feels the hardest. We are going to break down the hard-hitting truths from this book and give you a blueprint to change every area of your life by building unbreakable discipline. But first, let's talk about that voice in your head. The one that says you're too tired, that you'll start tomorrow, that one day of rest won't hurt. Write "It's me" in the comments right now if you know exactly what I'm talking about. The next thing I'm about to reveal will show you that voice is not your friend. It's the enemy you must learn to fight. Chapter 1. The First Battle. Refusing to negotiate with laziness. Discipline isn't a feeling that arrives with a smile on a Tuesday morning. It's a force you have to actively confront and drag into your life, especially when your inner voice is telling you to stay in bed, take a break, or that you deserve to do nothing. Most people lose the battle of discipline before it even begins because they negotiate with laziness. And let me tell you, laziness always wins that argument. It never runs out of excuses. It's always ready with another reason why you should wait. This is more than just a bad habit. It's a dangerous cycle. You think you're just skipping one workout or hitting snooze one time. But what you're really doing is training your mind to say no to discipline and yes to comfort. Every small excuse you accept begins to shape your character. You are literally strengthening your laziness with every choice you make to turn your back on discipline. And then when a truly important moment comes, a big project, a life-changing decision, you are already conditioned to quit. What's even more insidious is how laziness disguises itself. It doesn't always look like sitting on the couch doing nothing. Sometimes it looks like endlessly scrolling through your phone. Sometimes it looks like busy work that keeps you from tackling what really matters. It fools you into believing you're productive when you're just avoiding what's difficult. This is how it wins, by distracting you with easy, meaningless tasks while the important, transformative work goes undone. The truth about progress is that it is always, without exception, found in what is difficult. The things that demand your focus, push you out of your comfort zone and make you sweat are the very things that will shape you into a disciplined person. If you want to build a better life, you have to learn to see laziness for what it truly is, the enemy of your future. So how do you face it directly? You make a stand. You say no and take action in that very moment, even if your mind is screaming otherwise. This isn't about being harsh with yourself. It's about respecting your future enough to make decisions today that will serve you tomorrow. When you refuse to negotiate with laziness, you're telling yourself, my future is worth the sacrifice. My goals are worth the discomfort. I am worth the effort. This is self-respect at the highest level. The human mind is a master at creating stories to keep you comfortable. You worked hard yesterday. Take it easy today, it whispers. You don't have the energy right now. Do it later. These aren't harmless thoughts. They are chains that keep you tied to the same level of results and the same life. If you accept them, you are training yourself to surrender. The disciplined person builds the ability to recognize these thoughts and shut them down before they take root. Laziness will never completely disappear. It will show up again tomorrow and the day after that. But you can strip it of its power by consistently refusing to give in to it. Every time you choose action over excuses, you take back a piece of strength for yourself. Over time, the balance shifts. Laziness becomes weaker and discipline becomes stronger. Eventually, discipline becomes part of who you are, not just something you do. Think about the people you admire most. They aren't more talented or luckier than you. They simply stopped negotiating with laziness. They built discipline by refusing to listen to excuses and by forcing themselves to act even when they didn't feel like it. That's the secret. It's not glamorous or exciting. It's simply the power to say no to your inner weakness and yes to the actions that will move you forward. The moment you stop negotiating is the moment your life changes. Chapter 2: The Power of Immediate Action. The reason most people remain stuck in a loop of wishing and waiting isn't because they lack knowledge or opportunity. It's because they wait. They sit around for the perfect feeling to arrive, for the conditions to be perfect, or for a sudden burst of motivation. But those things are like a mirage. They almost never appear when you expect them to. Discipline starts the moment you act before you feel ready. It begins when you face laziness directly and move in spite of it. Think about the countless opportunities that have slipped through your fingers simply because you paused. You felt the urge to exercise but told yourself you'd do it later, only to skip it entirely. You knew you had a call to make, but you delayed and later never came. These small moments might seem harmless at the time, but they are slowly conditioning you to ignore your own direction. They teach your mind that hesitation is acceptable, and the more you accept it, the weaker your discipline becomes. Now imagine the opposite. Imagine a life where every time you have a thought to act, you move immediately. You think of drinking water, so you drink it. You remember a task, so you start it right then. This pattern builds something powerful: the ability to respond instantly. This is how you remove laziness before it has a chance to grow, and how you prevent procrastination from ever taking root. The human brain is a master at creating reasons to stop. Within seconds of thinking about doing something difficult, it generates a list of arguments against it. You're too tired. You'll have more energy later. It's not urgent right now. But those arguments only appear when you wait. If you act before your brain has time to debate, you win. You cut off the excuses before they can even take shape. That's why small instant actions are more powerful than big delayed ones. When you decide to train this skill, start with something simple. As soon as your alarm rings, stand up. Not after a few minutes, not after checking your phone. Stand up immediately. That small action builds a powerful lesson. I control my response. Do the same when you remember a small task, and do it right then, even if it only takes 30 seconds. Each time you do this, you reinforce the message that you are a person who acts, not a person who waits. Discipline isn't just about grand goals. It's about teaching yourself that your actions follow your decisions. If you decide to do something and then don't, you are teaching yourself to doubt your own word. But if you decide and act instantly, you are teaching yourself trust. You may think small actions are too insignificant to matter, but they are the seeds of change. Acting instantly on a small task trains the same mental muscle that will later help you act instantly on bigger challenges. Picking up a book today trains the same discipline that will help you start a business tomorrow. Standing up when your alarm rings trains the same discipline that will help you stay strong under pressure later. You cannot skip the small steps. They are the training ground for the big ones. If you want to test yourself, try this rule. When you think of something necessary, count down from 3 and then do it. 3, 2, 1, move. This simple rule removes hesitation and forces you to build a new reflex. Act now. Over time, you won't even need to count. Your body will move on its own. That's what real discipline feels like. Not a forced effort, but a trained reflex. Chapter 3: Controlling your inner dialogue. The greatest battles of discipline are not fought in the gym or at the office. They are fought inside your mind. Every action you take begins as a thought, and every decision is shaped by the direction of your thinking. If you do not learn to control what goes on in your head, then your life will always be led by impulses, emotions, and distortions. Discipline only becomes possible when you understand how powerful your thoughts truly are. Most people live on autopilot, never stopping to notice what they are thinking, and they make a dangerous mistake by believing their thoughts are facts. In reality, most thoughts are just opinions, interpretations, or echoes of past experiences. If you want to take control, you must learn to stop and examine your thoughts. Ask yourself, is this thought leading me forward or holding me back? And is this thought building discipline or destroying it? The very act of asking these questions gives you the power to separate yourself from the thought instead of being controlled by it. The good news is that you can train yourself to filter your thoughts just like you filter the food you eat. You don't eat whatever is put in front of you. You choose carefully because you know it will affect your health. In the same way, You cannot allow every thought to take root. You must choose which thoughts are worth keeping and which ones must be replaced. This is a discipline in itself, the discipline of thought management. Here is how you do it. The first step is awareness. You must become aware of the destructive thoughts that fill your mind. Phrases like "I'm too tired," "I'm not smart enough," or "I'll never succeed" are common, and they become so normal that they feel harmless, but they are shaping your discipline. Recognition allows you to interrupt this cycle. The second step is replacement. You cannot simply force a thought to disappear. If you want to get rid of a destructive thought, you must replace it with a constructive one. For example, if your mind says, "I can't do this," you replace it with, "I may struggle, but I can learn and improve." If your mind says, "I don't feel like starting," you replace it with, "I will begin now because starting creates momentum." This turns destructive energy into constructive action. You must also learn to challenge irrational thoughts. Your mind will often exaggerate reality, telling you a task is too big or that failure is certain. When you step back, you realize these are not facts. They are fears. Discipline grows when you confront those fears with truth. The task may be big, but it can be broken into steps. You may not feel ready, but you can start with what you have. Failure may be possible, but so is success. This is how you prevent your thoughts from dictating your behavior. The ultimate goal is to create an inner voice that you trust completely, a voice that gives clear, firm direction and expects obedience. When you build this voice, you no longer have to rely on temporary bursts of motivation. Your own words will drive you forward every single day. Over time, you will notice the shift. The negative talk that once controlled your decisions will fade, and the strict direction you practice will become automatic. You will wake up and hear yourself saying, "Stand up now," and when you face a task, you will hear, "Start immediately." This inner dialogue will guide you with power. This is how you take ownership of your life and build the discipline that will carry you to every goal you set for yourself. Chapter 4. Using. Pressure to overcome comfort. Comfort is one of the greatest enemies of discipline. It feels safe, pleasant, and familiar, but if you give into it too often, it will slowly pull you away from progress. Comfort whispers that you can take it easy. Delay the hard task and relax just a little longer. This seems harmless at first, but over time it weakens your drive and lowers your standards. The only way to break its grip is to use pressure to create conditions that demand action when your body and mind would rather stay idle. Without pressure, comfort will always win. With it, you force yourself to rise above. Pressure is not your enemy. In fact, it is often the very tool that pulls out your best. Think about deadlines. How many times have you delayed until the very last moment, only to produce more in a few hours than you had in weeks? That is not because you lacked ability earlier. It's because the pressure forced you to act. The problem is that most people wait for external pressure, deadlines, emergencies, or consequences, before they move. Discipline grows when you learn to apply pressure to yourself before life does it for you. Comfort has no urgency. It convinces you that tomorrow is just as good as today and that nothing terrible will happen if you delay. That is how it keeps you stuck. Pressure, however, creates urgency. It tells you that the time is now, not later. When you use pressure correctly, you leave no room for comfort to slow you down. You create a system where action is not optional. Movement is the only choice. One way to create this pressure is through accountability. When you tell someone about your commitment or make your goals visible, you introduce a kind of weight that pushes you forward. If you promise yourself you will exercise but tell no one, comfort can easily talk you out of it. But if you tell a friend or share it publicly, you feel pressure to follow through. This pressure removes the option of slipping back into comfort and gives you an extra reason to act. Another way is through deadlines. A goal without a deadline is just a wish. If you say you will get something done someday, comfort will stretch that day into months or even years. But if you give yourself a firm date, you create pressure that demands focus. To even better, shorten your deadlines. This urgency forces you to cut distractions and prioritize what matters most. You can also use financial pressure. Invest in something that requires your commitment. Pay for a class, buy the equipment, or put money on the line. When you invest, you create pressure to use what you paid for. Many people waste opportunities because they never attach a real value to their commitment. When there is nothing to lose, comfort takes over. When you have something at stake, you are far less likely to delay. Pressure also comes from raising your standards. When you accept mediocrity, comfort wins easily. But when you raise the bar and demand more from yourself, you introduce the pressure to perform at a higher level. This is not about perfection, but about refusing to settle. High standards create the kind of pressure that pushes you to act with seriousness, even when you don't feel like it. A powerful way to use pressure is to visualize the cost of comfort. Ask yourself, what will my life look like if I continue choosing ease over effort? Picture the wasted time, the lost opportunities, and the regret that will build up over years. This vision creates emotional pressure, reminding you that every choice has a consequence. When you see clearly what comfort will steal from you, you feel an urgency to move now. This inner pressure drives action more strongly than motivation ever could. Pressure is not about stress for the sake of stress. It's about building conditions where discipline becomes the natural response. Comfort will always try to slow you down, but pressure creates a force that is stronger than comfort. It directs you to act before you are tempted to delay. It tells you there is no later, only now. That habit of creating pressure builds resilience. It trains your mind to act even when comfort pulls hard. One final overlooked form of pressure is responsibility. When others depend on you, you cannot afford to choose comfort. Think about parents who sacrifice for their children, or workers who push through exhaustion to provide. They act not because they always feel motivated, but because responsibility creates a pressure that leaves no room for laziness. You can use this principle in your own life by taking on commitments that require your discipline. When someone else relies on you, comfort becomes a much weaker option. The disciplined person understands that comfort will always be there, whispering in their ear. You cannot eliminate the pull of comfort, but you can overpower it with pressure. Comfort is gentle and whispers, while pressure is firm and demands. The one you choose to listen to determines the direction of your life. If you rely on comfort, your life will shrink. If you rely on pressure, your life will expand. You will grow stronger, more reliable, and more disciplined with every decision. Chapter 5. Choosing effort over relief. Mental toughness is the ability to keep moving forward when every part of you wants to stop and escape into comfort. Life constantly presents you with a simple choice. Choose effort and grow stronger, or choose relief and stay weak. The easy road tempts you every day, but if you always take it, you'll never discover your true potential. The disciplined life belongs to those who train themselves to consistently choose effort, even when relief looks far more inviting. You must understand that toughness isn't built in comfort. It's forged in moments when effort feels heavy and resistance seems unbearable. This is the exact moment where you either quit or push through. If you quit, you teach yourself that temporary relief is more important than progress. But if you push through, you prove that effort defines you. Over time, these choices shape your identity. You become either the person who gives in to relief or the person who thrives under effort. Most people don't realize how often they choose relief. They reach for food when stressed instead of facing the real problem, or they check their phone to avoid a difficult task. These small acts accumulate into a pattern that either builds weakness or builds toughness. The mind adapts to whichever you feed it. Choosing effort means you refuse to run from discomfort. You accept that growth requires pain and that strength requires sacrifice. But here's the truth. The discomfort of effort is temporary, while the weakness from chasing relief lasts much longer. When you push through and complete the work, the pain fades and the reward remains. When you give in to relief, the comfort fades, but the regret lingers. Mental toughness is about training yourself to live for the long reward, not the short escape. Discipline requires you to recognize the tricks of relief. It always presents itself as harmless, whispering that you deserve it. But once you accept it, that relief multiplies. A short break turns into hours wasted. A skipped day turns into weeks of neglect. The danger isn't in a single choice, but in the destructive pattern that follows. Building mental toughness starts with small, deliberate acts of effort. You don't need to start with the hardest challenge. Start by finishing your workout without cutting it short, completing a task before checking your phone, or staying focused for a set amount of time without distractions. Each of these small victories strengthens your tolerance for discomfort and sends a message to your mind that you can endure. The more you repeat them, the stronger you become. As you grow stronger, you can deliberately seek effort, like choosing the stairs over the elevator or staying with a problem instead of quitting. Another essential part of toughness is self-respect. When you choose effort, you prove to yourself that you can be trusted to finish what you start, which builds pride and fuels confidence. But when you choose relief, you lose respect for yourself. You might enjoy the comfort in the moment, but later you feel disappointed, and that disappointment weakens your confidence. The only way to rebuild that trust is through consistent effort. Mental toughness also requires patience. Relief is immediately attractive because it offers instant comfort, while effort takes time before results appear. This is where many people quit because they can't handle the gap between effort and reward. But the disciplined person accepts that patience is part of the process. They trust that the reward will come if they keep stacking those bricks of effort, one day at a time. So remember this: the next time comfort calls you toward relief, stop and ask yourself which decision will make you stronger. The answer is almost always effort. By consistently choosing effort over relief, you build the kind of quiet power that tells the world and yourself that you are capable of far more than you think. Chapter 6. The long-term pain of impulses. Impulses are quick, sudden urges that pull you toward comfort, distraction, or instant pleasure. You feel the impulse to skip a workout, eat something unhealthy, or delay a difficult task. In the moment, these urges feel harmless, but they are traps. They offer a short burst of relief while creating long-term pain. If you want to force discipline into your life, you must train yourself to fight these urges by reminding yourself of the true cost of giving in. Every choice carries a consequence, but impulses blind you to the long-term effect. The sugary food feels good now, and skipping the workout feels easier now, but tomorrow you'll feel weaker behind and filled with regret. That regret is the pain that impulses never show you in advance. The reward of an impulse never lasts as long as the regret it creates. That regret lingers and grows over time, chipping away at your strength. Discipline is about training your mind to look beyond the present moment and choose based on the impact tomorrow. The disciplined person understands that while the pain of effort is temporary, the pain of regret is permanent. You must create a gap between the urge and the action. That pause is where your power lies. It's where you decide whether to live in regret or in discipline. One of the strongest tools you can use is visualization. When an impulse comes, don't just think about the comfort it offers. Picture the pain that follows. Imagine looking in the mirror and seeing no progress because you skipped your workout again. Imagine the stress of unfinished work piling up because you delayed again. Let these images become clear. This emotional reminder will cut through the false pleasure of the impulse. It's also helpful to replace the impulse with a stronger action. If you feel the urge to skip work, start with a small piece of it immediately. If you feel the urge to eat poorly, drink a glass of water first. This redirection of energy weakens the impulse. Over time, your brain learns that when the urge arrives, you don't obey it. You transform it into something useful. Every person who lives with regret today was once someone who gave in to impulses yesterday. Your impulses will never think about the long term. They only care about now. But you must care about later. You must live with the bigger picture in mind. This vision is what allows you to resist the temptation of relief in the moment. The disciplined life is not built by perfect conditions or endless motivation. It's built by winning the battles of impulse every day. Chapter 7. Directing energy to what matters. Every person wakes up with a limited supply of energy, and how you direct that energy determines your life's trajectory. Discipline isn't just about forcing yourself to work. It's about making sure your actions are directed toward the tasks that truly matter. Without this focus, you can work hard all day and still feel empty because your energy went to things that made no real difference. A disciplined life isn't measured by activity, but by progress in the areas that shape your future. Many people feel drained yet unfulfilled because they scatter their energy. They spend hours reacting to messages, endlessly scrolling, worrying about opinions, or chasing trivial tasks that make them feel busy but not productive. At the end of the day, they're exhausted with nothing important to show for it. That's the trap of undirected energy. Effort without focus is wasted effort. The discipline that truly changes your life comes from saying no to the unimportant and yes only to the essential. The first step to directing your energy wisely is clarity. You must know what truly matters to you. Ask yourself, what are the few things that create the biggest results in my life? What actions move me closer to my goals? Once you're clear on your priorities, the discipline is in aligning your energy with them. You can't just hope your energy goes to the right places. You must decide in advance. You have to protect your focus like it's your most valuable resource, because it is. One of the strongest strategies is to identify your top 3 tasks each day, the ones that truly matter, and commit to completing them before anything else. Too many people fill their mornings with small distractions and then wonder why they have no energy left for the work that matters. Discipline means flipping that pattern. Do the important work first and leave the trivial for later, if at all. Another way to direct your energy is by creating boundaries. Every time you say yes to something meaningless, you're saying no to something meaningful. If you constantly allow others to interrupt your time or agree to obligations that don't serve your goals, you're giving away your energy. Discipline requires the courage to say no firmly and without guilt. That no protects your energy for the tasks that will build your future. You must also learn to recognize false productivity, doing things that feel like work but create no real impact, like endlessly organizing or over-researching instead of acting. The disciplined person constantly asks, "Is this moving me forward?" If the answer is no, they redirect immediately. This habit alone separates the truly productive from the perpetually busy. Remember, every day you spend on meaningless tasks is a day you never get back. The regret of wasted energy is painful. Discipline saves you from this regret by ensuring your time, effort, and focus are invested in building something lasting. Chapter 8. Conditioning your mind to act. Motivation is a feeling, and feelings are unreliable. If you build your life on waiting for motivation to arrive, you'll never be consistent. Discipline requires something stronger than motivation. It requires conditioning your mind to act regardless of how you feel. This conditioning is what separates people who dream from people who achieve. Most people get it backwards. They sit and wait for the right emotion to appear before they start a project or go to the gym. But action creates its own energy. The very act of beginning generates the momentum that feelings cannot. If you train yourself to move without motivation, you will create results every day. Conditioning your mind to act means removing choice from the equation. When you decide something must be done, you no longer wait to see if you feel like it. You act because it's required. You build rules for yourself that don't depend on your moods, which conditions you to follow through whether you're excited or tired. This is how you train your mind to obey the decision, not the feeling. One of the most effective ways to build this conditioning is to create non-negotiables. These are commitments you do every day no matter what, such as writing a certain number of words or exercising for a set time. The point is that they happen without discussion. By repeating them daily, your brain learns that they are automatic. What once felt forced will eventually become natural. Another important piece of conditioning is to shorten the gap between decision and action. The longer you wait after deciding to act, the more space you give for excuses to appear. Immediate action, even a small step, locks in the decision. Your mind learns that once you decide, you move. That repeated pattern rewires your behavior until acting instantly is automatic. It's also helpful to reframe how you think about motivation. Instead of waiting for it, treat it as a bonus. When it's there, enjoy it. When it's absent, ignore it. You no longer care whether motivation shows up because you operate on a higher standard. Discipline. Finally, tie action to your identity. Stop saying, "I need motivation to do this," and start saying, "I'm the kind of person who does this." When you connect discipline to who you are rather than how you feel, your actions become consistent. Identity-driven discipline is far stronger than feeling-driven discipline. The disciplined person understands that the work must be done whether the emotion is there or not. The cost of waiting for motivation is high. You lose time, you lose progress, and you lose trust in yourself. But each time you act without it, you reinforce the belief that you are in control. That belief grows stronger until action becomes second nature. And that is the path to freedom. Nature. And that is the path to freedom. We've covered the brutal, honest truth. A disciplined life is not born from waiting for feelings to align, but from the deliberate, difficult choices you make every single day. Let me leave you with 3 life-changing lessons. First, discipline is an act of defiance against comfort. Every time laziness whispers an excuse, you must answer with a direct and firm no. Every time an impulse offers temporary relief, you must remind yourself of the long-term pain it will cause. You are not a victim of your feelings. You are the one in control. Second, discipline is a muscle built through small, painful repetitions. You can't skip the small steps or wait for big leaps. Your brain only accepts new, strong habits when you force them through consistent repetition, even when it's uncomfortable or boring. The magic happens not in the burst of motivation, but in the mundane, daily grind. That's where real strength is born. Third, discipline is your path to freedom. It's not about restriction. It's about freeing yourself from the chaos of impulses, the tyranny of wasted energy, and the constant disappointment of inaction. When you live with discipline, you are free to live with intention. You are no longer at the mercy of your moods or your environment. You are the architect of your own life. So from this moment on, stop waiting for motivation to show up. Stop negotiating with laziness. Stop giving in to false comfort. Choose effort over relief. Direct your energy to what truly matters. Condition your mind to act without hesitation. If you found value in this, smash that like button and subscribe for more content that will challenge you to be better. Share this video with one person who needs to hear this message. And for a deeper dive, grab the audiobook. Remember this, the disciplined life isn't a gift. It's a choice. And the only person who can make it for you is you. The life you want is waiting, but only for the person who is willing to take control. Now go act.